That's a silver soprano saxophone that I cut and attached to this turbo system.
So what was this tail section originally?
That's the stand of a microscope. I mean, a lot of it's not even motorcycle parts, and I'm like, oh, that looks like a tail light. Like the tail light on this is a pencil sharpener. The air intake also is a grapefruit juicer. And this is a milkshake mixer, which I ran LED lights through.
That blows my mind that your mind allows you to think that way. Mine doesn't. What's up, y'all? I'm Jake from Prism Supply. Welcome to our series, My Garage. In this episode, we're in Boston, Massachusetts, featuring my friend J Shia from Madhouse Motors. Jay is a true artist, entrepreneur, and motorcycle enthusiast with an incredible garage. Let's go check it out. Now that we're inside the space, it's split up into multiple different sections. So you have like this front entrance, you have a metalworking fab zone, you have a mechanic section, and then you have bike storage in the back, as well as a coffee shop.
Yeah.
You got a lot going on in this space.
We've only been in this space for 3 years. We've been in business for a while. It's 13 years now. At the last shop, people would come in for a service, tire, oil change, whatever, and then ask where they can go and sit, have a coffee or whatever. So when moving here, I was like, okay, we should probably build a waiting room, or maybe I'll make my office, near the waiting room, and maybe in the waiting room we'll have a Keurig. I got really carried away and I built an entire coffee shop.
You have a ton of motorcycles in here.
Yeah.
Huge variety of motorcycles.
We work on basically every year, make and model. We do have some bikes that we consider ourselves specializing in. But yeah, we have a wildly wide range of machines because we're the only motorcycle shop in Boston.
That's wild to me.
Yeah, it's wild to me too. Yeah,
Crazy.
The only one with a Boston zip code. It's been that way for a while now.
You obviously have a lot of tools. Some of it's pretty old. I'm sure you've been collecting it for a while. How'd you get into it?
I've just always been around tools and machines my entire life since I was a kid. So my family comes from Lebanon, and in Lebanon my grandfather, my great-grandfather, everybody are all metal workers. And when they came to the States, they brought these big boxes of tools. I still have them.
And your dad was into motorcycles?
Yeah, so he's always had bikes.
A bunch of motorcycles at one point,
A lot
right?
of motorcycles at one point.
I heard something.
Yeah, it's true. At one point there was like 70 junky motorcycles in the yard. The shop's named Madhouse after my family's house, which was just like a junky, wild house.
It was a Madhouse.
Oh, it's a Madhouse. Now it's a lot more cleaned up. Like people in the neighborhood would come and be like, oh, can you fix this? And then over time, the name kind of stuck, it got coined. And also over time, people started associating this backyard with this like kid working in it as a place to go fix their motorcycles.
That kid being you.
That kid being me. There's so many amazing things that lined up to actually make this bloom. My neighbor, the neighbor was a professional motorcycle racer, Jackie Booth, USCRA medalist, phenomenal racer. His mechanic, Sarah Anthony, used to go and work in the yard, and he'd work on Jack's Ducatis and really cool machines and look over the fence and see what I was doing and be like, hey, you're doing that wrong. I'm like, what? Well, if I'm doing it wrong, come show me. I'll give you half the money. And he's like, fine. Come over, he'd show me. And then I was like, hey man, how about every time I get a job, like we split it, whatever, you teach me, I'll bring in the work. Then when you're coming to work on Jack's stuff, you're also working over here. I'm like a late teenager.
So you're hustling from an early age. Hit the scene.
Always hustled. And so I'm just getting the most organic, honest lessons from this guy, inheriting all his knowledge, learning while building like client base because our work is getting better. And now people are coming to this yard to get their stuff fixed by myself and by a really good mechanic. Did that for years. I become better, learn more stuff, and then we began to outgrow the yard. The city was like, this is funny, but like you can't have all these bikes, gas and oil. You need to move. We moved shops so many times, and now 13 years later, we're We're here.
Jay, this is a piece of art here. Give me a quick rundown of this bike. It's early 70s, you said?
Yeah, 72 Harley Aramaki Sprint. I heavily modified the frame, cut the whole down tube from the neck to the back, and built this kind of funny single-sided suspension system.
It's crazy like how much art you put into your motorcycles and into your style of building bikes. Like that blows my mind.
I appreciate it. There was actually 2 of these, so I had built 2 bikes as one project. They were the same exact year, make, model, same down to the VIN number, but every single part was inverted. So the other one was a black bike. This is the turbocharged one, the other was nitrous injected.
Crazy.
I debuted them on the stage of the Boston Symphony Orchestra together to the soundtrack of Swan Lake, and they kind of like danced around each other. That's a silver soprano saxophone that I cut and attached to this turbo system.
So what was this tail section originally?
That's the stand of a microscope that I just flipped on its side, gutted it, ran LED lights through it, and then built an oil tank inside. The headlight is actually the projector of the microscope.
It's so cool how you like can see parts off of different motorcycles or different bikes and then make it all work together.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's not even motorcycle parts. Like I'd see something out there,
right.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, that looks like a tail light. Like the tail light on this is a pencil sharpener. And like I see it, and I'm like, this would look great if it was glowing. And then the air intake also is a grapefruit juicer. And this is a milkshake mixer, which I ran LED lights through.
That blows my mind that your mind allows you to think that way. Mine doesn't. Mine's just too simple.
Yours is clean.
Thanks.
Do some real clean work.
Just different styles.
And there's small stuff like the brake arms on these are actually the jaws of old bolt cutters. All my bikes, I put something that says Boston. So this says Boston right here. Yeah, I mean, these bikes are my projects for me to like learn and grow for myself from. I feel like because I've been around bikes for so long, I could kind of unfortunately become stagnant with my learning. So I reach out to people who are really, really talented and ask for lessons, for tips, or for classes, and then wind up kind of having this like menagerie of amazing teachers.
I feel like in our industry, there's a lot of people that if you just reach out to, they'll help you. That's that's one of my favorite things about the industry.
Yeah, people are so wildly generous with their knowledge, and then like they get invested also. Like, hey, how like did your turbo explode yet? And you would think that people would be gatekeepy in any industry, but this one is not. People are very, very generous and open to sharing knowledge, and it's been life-changing for me in so many ways, but also building relationships with people who I've learned from is just remarkable.
Jay, what's your first memory ever of motorcycles?
My first time like really, really being like, I like this was, I'm little, riding around on a XR 200. My dad would kickstart it and me and my brothers would ride around, but because I was so small, he'd like throw me up on the bike, I'd ride it around, and then it's too big for me to like stop. And so I was just like, I'm just keep going. And so my brothers would be mad, I'd like hog the bike. And the way I would stop is I would have to like stop right up next to a tree and like try and lean it up, and like I'd smash myself against the tree so many times or miss it by a foot. And I think that was the first time I got like a real like thrill riding motorcycles. There's so many embarrassing stories of me with motorcycles because I started this so young that I had a decade of literally not knowing what I was doing. One, this is really bad.
I love it already.
I'm like 21 and I had a customer with this beautiful white S90, beautiful bike. And we did this whole restoration. I had it painted, everything. So I hear he's gonna come pick it up, and I like take a photo looking all cool with this bike. It's so bad. Customer comes, and because his schedule's crazy, his battery had died from the last time I had tested it. And I'm like, oh, no problem. Like, I'll just jump it. Fire up my truck, never do that. Put these jumper cables to the S90's tiny little 6-volt battery and light this guy's bike on fire in front of the whole entire neighborhood. Like, holy shit. Get a fire extinguisher, put his bike out. Whole neighborhood's like, well, this is like backyard mechanic. Like, you don't know what you're doing. Now I'm like, damn, I just like melted this guy's bike. I'm like, I'll do whatever, any bike you want, you know, choose it, you can have it, and I'll do an entire custom build for you, no problem. He chooses a really nice CB550, and I'm like, damn, but okay, you can have it. I'm so sorry, I owe it to you. And he was like, how about you do whatever you want? This is actually the start of like me doing more like artsy custom builds. And that was the birth of the wood bike. So I built a bike with all wooden side covers.
So Jay, it seems like you have an absolutely incredible team. You said you have 7 employees here that work in like the motorcycle part of it.
That's one thing I will like openly brag about is my team.
I love
like
that.
Not ashamed. I have an amazing team, and it's the perfect team for this. Not only some of the most skilled mechanics I know, but also the most curious, which I've learned that the best mechanics are curious ones who are actively interested in learning, and my whole staff have that kind of mindset, and I'm like wildly proud of that. We're working in a shop with such a wide range of machines that we have to be really particular with our training and very, very careful. So like we'll work on bikes from the early 1900s to, you know, super sport race bikes to big twins. And so our techs, we give them a lot of time to learn to be able to work on all of these things. Take a moment and read it, study it, call the expert. Like we have a whole list of guys to reach out to. Aside from the bikes, like this whole entire company is basically built on the community, interacting with people, helping each other out, fixing people's broken stuff. That's our job. Someone comes here with a problem, our goal is to make sure that they leave with a, you know, something safe to ride home on. Through that, you build trust, you build camaraderie. It's a lot more than the machine.
That's it for this episode of My Garage. Jay, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate it. Thanks for letting us interrupt your business and pulling away all your employees. Where can we find out more about you or your business?
Well, I appreciate you guys also.
Of course.
You can find me here working away every day. But if you're not in Boston, you can find us on social media. Shop is Madhouse Motors, Cafe, Madhouse Cafe, and then me, just my name, J Shia. Online, and you could watch our work and our cool projects, and yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.
Thank you.